You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take.
Plan. I'm the enemy. Because I like to think.
You can travel like a Bobby doll. You can hang out like a biker's mom. You fit in anywhere you go. And bring your own style just to steal the show. You started so long with a slow and you said, drink with a loud, you drink and smoke on your bed. Love by all yourself, you know. You're always involved, you're the star of the show.
Welcome, Fulton Landians, visitors, one and all. Welcome to another day here in the lovely kingdom of Fulton Land, where we're going to chat today about the wild world of indie comics, because there's a whole lot going on. How are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, I'm okay. I picked up an injury last night in training, but a couple of days off and it'll be fine. So, yeah, I'm good. From work perspective, it's the same at the moment every week. It's face planted firmly against the screen until those pencils are done, and then face firmly planted against a piece of paper while I do the inks.
I hear that. I had my face firmly planted against my keyboard last night, working on Arc Athena, working on the Outliers, and man, just lots of good stuff going on.
Yeah, I had a closeout on my campaign, which was great.
We're
finally finished.
We're gonna take a little look at that, and I'm gonna ask you how that went.
Yeah. Big thank you to Michael Bancroft for having me on. And
that was a fun show.
That was a great show. It was good fun, and thank you to everyone who backed and anyone who shared or just took notice of the project or had me on their stream. It's wonderful. Great campaign. Absolutely loved it. Yeah, and we could talk more about it in a minute.
Cool. So I want to take a spin through the chat and say hello to Amanda B, the first one in the chat.
Thanks, Amanda.
We certainly appreciate our senior counselor in chief to Fulton Land. We've got Matt Fowler, Woodrow, Pastmaster Dan, Statistical Zero, Phil from Zaid Comics, Pedro Ang, Eric Hutfuls, Jasper Plan 9, Dave Brink from Genuine Comics, and you and me, Russ. So it's a good day.
G'day.
It is a good day to be alive. It's a good day to be reading indie comics. It's a good day to be making indie comics. And since we were talking about Only Death Can Save Us, let's bring that up. Let's show that on the screen. We were talking just before the show how the campaign, you tried to close it and it took them 3 days to actually close it for you?
I think it took slightly less, but they say 3 business days. I wasn't aware of that. I thought you just closed it and that was the end of it. You pressed the button and it was over. But no, I don't know. I think that's probably just the case for In Demand. Because obviously if you have a campaign and you end it on that day, it ends. But for some reason, they must have to do something manually. Mm-hmm. So I effectively went to the button that says opt out of In Demand, close it up. And I went through that process on Friday afternoon, evening, which is when I said I was going to do it. But it came back and said, oh, no, you've got another 3 days because we might take up to 3 business days. But it was closed out, I think, it was either Monday evening or Tuesday morning. So yeah, all good, all done, and all finished up. So very happy with that.
Cool. And so now that you got one full campaign experience behind you, all the way through to the last of fulfillment, and then you had some additional orders come through, quite a few, if I understand correctly, while you were in demand.
Yeah.
And then now it's finally done once and for all. You've been looking forward to the next campaign. How did things stack up in terms of what you expected, good or bad, and then how things actually worked out?
Right. Well, my expectations were blown out of the water. I was hoping in my wildest dreams that I'd get 150 backers, that I'd make my campaign target. So to get 270 backers, there's a couple of repeats in there and a couple of other bits and pieces, which means it's probably about 270 that actually received books from me. Although there's a couple left to send out. I got a couple of sketch perks that I've got to finish, so that those people will get those in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, that blew me away. I think I was aware that I would need to go on and sort of campaign as in being physically available to everybody via streams, and that was going to be tiring, but I didn't factor in just how much that was going to take out of my time. And that's something you should always be aware of. I think it's certainly going forward. I think I was very pleased with a lot of the things I did right. So I did a lot of research. So silly things like postage costs, packaging costs, as well as printing costs, getting stuff done up front. That's something that I got stung a little bit because I had an artist that had to drop out on me. But that I won't be doing that again. There were things that I got right, things that I maybe could have done better, but overall it was actually a really, really good experience. This was always supposed to be a proof of concept. Is there a market out there? Would people like it? Could I write a comic book that people would enjoy? And I got yes to all those questions. I got answered yes to all those questions. So very pleased. It all came out really well.
There's a comment here from Stato who said he appreciated the not glossy pages. And I got to say, that was a comment I heard from a lot of people.
Yeah.
And for myself, I also liked that. And that's the look and feel that we're going for with the Outliers. So I was really happy to see, my theory that it would look good with the aesthetic of the book. I was happy to see that it proved out successfully with your book. And it really, the thing I kept hearing over and over was that it kind of sort of looks and feels like newsprint, but it obviously is a lot more sturdy than newsprint, and it can hold the colors, and it can handle the effects of the colors, whereas newsprint wouldn't be able to handle it. And you didn't go crazy with the effects, but what you did, I really liked how you amped things up just enough to where you took advantage of the modern materials and printing processes we now get to enjoy that they couldn't back in the 70s or the 60s, but you didn't go overboard with it. You still kept a retro look and feel, and that's certainly what we're going for with the Outliers. So I was happy that not only did I as a backer really like the finished product when I had it in my hand, but so many people have told me that they really loved it. And because of how well your book turned out, and basically it was exactly what was advertised, they said that they're that much more excited for the Outliers because they've heard us talk or they've read that we're going to do a similar thing. Our time frame will be evoking more of the 70s and 80s versus 60s and 70s, but I was really happy with how your book turned out with those map pages, the uncoated paper. Really well done, man. So I'm curious, just from both the backer's perspective and I suppose as a creator's perspective. Now that you got your first one done, fulfilled, and everything, do you? And you said that it surpassed your expectations on the backer end. When you say something like, you researched all of the silly things like postage and whatever, I can understand how, from a creator's perspective, that is stuff you really don't want to be doing. You'd rather just be creating. But I have to say that as a backer, I like knowing that the creators are researching all of that stuff. Because to me, I want to know that they have their ducks in a row and that they're going to be able to know before they launch the campaign what kind of expenses they expect to have. Hopefully they pad in some margin there for fluctuations in their supply chain, so that when they raise the money, they'll be able to say responsibly they can provide what they're advertising.
No, exactly. Yeah. I put in margins. Oh, thank you. That was my goal at the end. Yeah. What I mean, I got 40%. Thank you. I got 40%. I think it's about 40% were in demand customers.
Oh, wow.
In the end, because it was 184 and I ended up at 271. So somewhere between 30 and 40% were in demand customers. So it's worthwhile doing that, definitely, and keeping. But the other thing I'm sort of I was aiming for September. It's looking like there's so much work that I'm aiming now for October. But still, it's like it keeps the interest available. People have still got places to go and buy the first book. But I cut that off now because I want to start building up for the second book. It is important to get those things done. And sometimes I don't always feel like I fit in the art world, because I do very much come at everything from a business perspective. I've met lots of creatives, and a percentage have been flaky. That's all I can say. It's not not all creatives are flaky. That's not a generalization, but some of them can be.
There are enough that artists, creative types, writers, painters, sculptors, filmmakers, whatever, they do have a bit of a reputation for being flaky.
And we've both spoken about our past. I've had business myself. I've run businesses as well as studios. Thank you, Stat. That means a lot. So I came at it as from a business perspective. How much was this going to cost me? And that's part of why. I put quite a high target for my first campaign. I put up £5,000 as being the target, which is like $6,500–7,000. And I think that's probably quite a high target. But that's not because I thought I deserved it. It was because I was coming at it from a business perspective. I needed to know that I could at least fund it, and that I could get some finance, some budget for the pages. I mean, as it was, I think I ended up like about $50 or $60 a page. Now that's pencils, inks, colors, lettering, pre-press.
Right.
That's everything. It's nowhere near as good as it sounds. It's an awful page rate for everything that you do.
You're basically working for a cup of noodles wages.
Yeah, exactly. But at least I did get a budget for it.
Yep.
And that's how businesses start. You can't expect to make profits. And and the other thing that you look at, and people talk about profits in crowdfunding, there's no such thing. There's just a higher wage rate.
Yeah.
It's not a profit. You can't say, oh, right, well, all these pages are going to be $50 a page, so anything I make over that after everything's been paid for is a profit. No, it's just the page rate goes up for everybody involved, whether it's a writer or an artist or whatever. If you like yourself, excuse me, sorry, you actually come up with the funds up front.
Right.
then you can say that you make a profit at the end of it. But I would suggest you're simply increasing your salary.
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
that's
and-
your finance for doing it.
That is how it goes. You're on target there. For me personally, any quote unquote profit I make before paying myself as writer or editor or art director or publisher, every penny is going to go into the next book.
Yeah. But that's
yeah, it's
running a business, isn't it?
That's exactly.
You expect to have to do that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Well, all I'm saying is when you see these pie charts,
Yeah.
and they come up and say this much is for this and this, and we don't take a penny in profit. It's like, no, there is no profit.
Yep.
It's just pay people to get the work done. It's just a matter of whether you get a larger pay packet or a smaller pay packet.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't the backing process itself is not a business. I am a business. You are a business.
Yeah.
Okay, the production of the book is a business, but the actual backing of it is not. That's just funding. It's almost like VC. It's almost like going out and getting venture capital.
Yep.
So that's why it's very important. You should always treat backers as customers. You should always treat them in that way, with respect, and make sure they get what they paid for. But looking at it from the back end, this is like going out and getting investment. So those potential investors, your potential audience, customers, whatever you want to call them, need to see that you've sweated. They need to see some sweat equity in it. They need to see that you've put some effort into it. That's why just turning up with a cover and a story about how you're not going to make profit in a pie chart, it's not going to make you a success at doing this. You've got to show that you've put, if you're just the producer, that you've put money into this and that you've paid people to produce art and story for you. Okay, but if you're the creator like myself on Only Death Can Save Us, you've actually done some unpaid work for this. You believe in it enough that you've taken yourself away from money-making activities and trying to prove that to the potential audience, so they think, if they can do it, then I'm going to be on board.
Yeah. Well said. Speaking of being a business, treating it like a business, you're looking ahead to your second campaign now. And do you want to talk briefly about the Arrow Comics deal and how that's kind of a bridge between Only Death Can Save Us 1 and Only Death Can Save Us 2, and then maybe talk for just a minute about what readers can expect in the second book?
Yeah, sure. Right, so this is a bit weird because Arrow approached me, Randy Zimmerman over at Arrow approached me after the book had been published. So I couldn't kind of work it out. Like what you'd done is you'd written Outliers in a way that you can divvy it up, and it's almost like a reverse trade. But I could never have thought of that happening. I did approach us, as Peter suggested. I did approach Peter Sameti, and this wasn't the right book for Alterna, although he was very complimentary about it. So at that point in time, I thought, right, well, I'm not even going to, because I had written it kind of in two halves, that you could maybe do it in two halves. So I just thought, all right, I'm just going to make the graphic novel. But then Arrow approached, and they said they'd really like to serialize it, as they have an opportunity to send some books out to the direct market. From my perspective, obviously I want to get the story out to as many people as possible. I'd seen Clint do it, and there was somebody else that did it as well. Can't remember who it was, but I know Clint was doing it with Alterna.
Yeah, with Downcast.
Yeah, with Downcast. And I thought, well, that's a fine idea. And the idea that you can provide a premium item like the actual graphic novel that might come with extra stuff for free, okay, like pin-ups and fridge magnets and all kinds of stuff, but also that the content would be exclusive. So obviously not all of it, because the story goes out to the direct market. But so, for instance, in the second book, there will be an exclusive story that's not been seen in the format that it will be shown in the book. So there'll be exclusivity to the book, but also the printing as well. I mean, that the format that I've created, I really like it as well, and that's something that will be happening going forward. So people can expect that book, and also to get it first as well. The second set of 3 books. So the first book is being split up into 3 for Arrow. It's going out bi-monthly from August onwards. I'm going to do the second book in October, and the second 3 comics from Arrow will be going out next year, I think in March or whatever. So the idea is that in January or February, the second book drops. Okay, and everybody who gets that first. They get it before it goes out to the to the direct market.
Got it.
But even then, it's going out over 6 months. So if you get it day and date the same time as the first floppy drops, you're still getting more than everybody else gets in the direct market, as well as getting exclusive content, as well as getting the book in that premium format. You're also getting the whole story and all the extras in there that will be coming out in the later 6 months. So it seemed like a great idea. So what I could do is I could provide premium content to my backers. The fact that the backers, they're part of your project almost. They feel part of it. So I could keep that as that audience, but then I could also, relay it out to Arrow and get to a wider audience. And there are potentially other things that I can do beyond that as well. So that's where that's going. And the second book, is a continuation of the first story from Dee and Chrissy's perspective. You get to see more of the Supreme. It's a little, I suppose it's a sort of a chink. It's zigging instead of zagging, if you like. It's not where you expect it to go in the second book.
Okay.
It'll move on into the third book, and that's where the whole loop, the whole arc will close up. Again, it's got that sort of cosmic feel to it. At the same time, there's a little bit of humor. It's written a little tongue in cheek in places. There's the odd joke, and there's some massive fights in it. So I get the chance to draw some massive fights. It's some of the stuff that you've been seeing that I've been posting recently has been extra content that's been going into the Arrow books. So it's like backstory stuff. I try to describe it similarly to the way you had songs and prose in Lord of the Rings. They weren't actually part of the story, but they enriched the world. So I've got that going on in Arrow Comics, and that will all be in book 2. That will all be represented in book 2. And then all the extras that are going into the second 3 floppies for Arrow will actually be presented in book 2 prior to it going out to the direct market. So it's another reason to have it in that book. You have it all in a collected place. And I'm really pleased with how the art's going. There's an evolution. It's what I said. I wanted to evolve the books so that the first book was very much sort of 6-panel grid, back in the 60s and 70s, and then I'd move on, and that kind of coincides with the style that I'm producing for Outliers as well. So there's a growth visually as well as from the story as well. So there's lots of great things happening. I'm really, Rick got the story back to me. I've already done some thumbnails on it, so things are happening. But I'm just as excited about Outliers, because I've been. We'll show you a layout later, but I've just been going through layouts today, and incredible fun. Really, really good stuff. It's going to be. You're going to get to the end of the book at Outliers, and you're going to go, "What? What?" And it's great fun. It's just it's going to be good. I can't wait for the second book now, and I'm.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, much like Only Death, where you're expanding the scope of the story and the sort of um, drama and conflict and possibly threat that your characters are in from one book to the next.
Yeah. I can tell you when I get to the end of book 3,
yeah,
it's going to play with your noodle. it's gonna mess your head up.
Nice. Stat calls it subverting ruspectations.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I like that.
We've got a bunch of people that have joined since we started the show. So I'd like to just quickly say hello to Skip Edwards and Robert Shepard, Alterman Schneily, Jasper Plan 9.
There's a legend in the chat.
A legend, you say?
There's a legend in the chat.
Pastmaster Dan? Yes, he is a legend.
He is a legend. They're all legends, but
Lord Ravener, Shadowhawk, Bristolian Dave must be who you're referring to. Yeah. All right, me babbers. Oh, look, it's Art T. Bear. He's here too with all the other legends. How's it going, Art? Glad you could join us this morning. And actually, that's a nice little segue into the next bit of indie comics news that was announced yesterday.
Let's share
the screen again.
There you go. It's the news.
That's the news ticker. Black and White Volume 2, Man vs. Machine. On Art's channel yesterday, he did a big reveal show, you might say. He didn't reveal any nipples. YouTube doesn't like that. So don't get too excited if you're going to go watch the show. I don't want to, do any bait and switch stuff here.
I just apologize now, Joe. I'm sorry I can't draw like Art.
Well, I don't know that anybody else can, so you're in good company.
Yeah.
But yeah, yesterday Art announced that I am the secret co-writer that has been working with him on the book. We've been working on it since September of last year. We had to take a couple of breaks from it. Art had to move from the socialist regime of California to the free state of Texas. I had to deal with some family medical stuff, but despite those couple breaks we had to take, work just picked right back up like there had been no break at all. Both times it was great. I mean, each time that we showed up to work, it was just like no time had passed, whether that was a week or a month. And I got to say, I'm having so much more fun on the project than I would have ever had a right to expect. It's just, anybody who read the first book, the scope is expanded greatly in book number 2. The first one was mostly a personal story about Black and White, Reed Blackett and Whitney Sung, and them encountering this villain, Jake Chang, and him causing trouble both for them and for her uncle and for some other folks in the immediate area. But then as you progress through the story, it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger where the building where Black and White were in blows up, and they're trying to escape the explosion. And book 2 picks up immediately after where book 1 left off. And book 2, we see, what was the result of that explosion. And then we start getting into where the story started. It starts opening up very quickly in book 2. And before you know it, there's possible extinction level threats that are unfolding, and let's just say humanity really, really needs some superheroes like Black and White to save the day. Otherwise, humanity is in big, big trouble. So, like I said, it's been a lot of fun to work on the project. I think people who like the first book are going to love the second book, and I just can't wait to see Art showing pages as he's drawing them. We're at the stage now where the book has been laid out. We've had this process where we've been writing the book, and Art's been laying it out more or less simultaneously. So because there wasn't, it's not as though we wrote a formal script and then Art would take the script and start drawing from it. That's not how it's worked. It's been writing it and laying it out, and writing it and laying it out, and writing it and laying it out, and that's how we've been going. So it's one of those projects where, you know, you kind of set the bar high and you hope to meet or exceed it. But I think Art and I both have agreed in recent weeks that we kind of sailed over that bar and then just kept going and going and going. And so it's really cool to see where it's ended up. And I think people who were fans of Black and White in the 90s are really going to enjoy where we're going with the story, because it pays tribute to the original series, but then we also take it in a completely different direction. And like I said, the scope is much bigger than what was going on in the 90s series. So Art says, sign up for Black and White Volume 2, everyone, and get access to exclusive goodies. And I can't agree more. Art, tell me in the chat if you, because I haven't been able to catch up on all of the latest stuff that you may have released to people. Tell me, let us know in the chat if you have given a potential month that you'd like to launch the campaign. And if you've given that out, then I'll put it up on the screen. But if you haven't, then I won't say anything about it. Jasper Plan 9 is saying he needs a wrench. He did his time. Well, Jasper, in the Citizen Kingdom of Fulton Land, we don't just give out wrenches. As you may know, when we bestow a wrench, we also bestow a title upon the receiver of the wrench. So you can either ask for a particular title, or I'll just quickly run through some titles that are available. They've not yet been awarded. We have Game Warden, Master of the Horse, Marshal of the Lists, Squires. We are, Russ, being a samurai general, can attest that we always could use not only samurai but squires as well. I think we're the only kingdom in the world where samurai have squires. I'm quite proud of that. I think it's very progressive of us, frankly.
You always need someone to practice on.
Yeah, but we also do recruit knights. There's the Order of the Pencil, the Order of the Pen. Oh, janitor. Okay. Well, yeah, we do have. Let me just make sure. I do believe we have. Yes, Dave Brink of Genuine Comics is the High Chief Janitor to the Palatial Chamber Pot. So he has a janitorial specialty. If you would like to have another specialty, or you'd like to work with Dave, just let me know, Jasper, and we'll get you taken care of. Past Master Dan says British Samurai. That's right.
Why not?
Only in Fulton Land. Eric Hutfuls wants to be Master of the Horse. All right.
Master of the Dans.
I can make that happen. Let's see. Eric Hutfuls, let me find you in YouTube. You, my friend, have now been wrenched, and I bestow upon you the title of Master of the Horse. Let me just write that down real quick. Master of the Horse, Eric Hutfuls. And let's see. Stato is suggesting that Jasper can be the Rustodian, cleaning up after Russ.
That's a messy job, but someone's got to do
it. Phil Diaz is the Phil at Arms, which I appreciate. Sometimes he coordinates with the Samurai General when it comes to defending the castle. So we appreciate that. Woodrow, of course, being the royal curry chef, makes sure we eat only the finest curry at table. Now, Past Master Dan, you were asking to be Master of the Dans, but you currently hold the title of Larder Master. So I certainly believe you're up to the task of being both Master of the Dans and Larder Master. But you let me know if you want to take on the additional responsibility, we can make that happen. Improbi is asking for who is Court Jester. Let's see. I do believe that... oh, you know what? I thought that we had a Court Jester. Yeah, it's Mo Biggs. Yeah. There was another one here I wanted to recognize. Let's see. Did Jasper get back to us on? Oh no, Jasper, you're retracting your request. Oh my goodness. I don't know if we've ever had this happen before in the history of the kingdom.
Just ignore him.
My goodness. My goodness. Eric McIntyre says Bancroft is the Court Jester. He got some people laughing yesterday, that's for sure. Skip Edwards would like to be known as the stirrer of pots. Don't ask why. Stato says, I don't need a wrench. I was given a shovel. That's correct. He was... he says, hey, Joe, are we burying our metaphorical enemies in the garden for soil health? Well, naturally. I mean, the plants need fertilizer. But Stato, didn't we make you wasn't it like the chief gardener of Palace grounds or something like that? I have a dim memory of that, but the details. Oh, Jasper, we can't ban you. Hobbit or no, you are welcome here. You don't have to be a hobbit to live in Fulton Land.
You could be a naked hobbit.
Yeah.
That's the thing now.
Prancing through the meadows under the pale moonlight. We don't mind.
With your gorgeous leathery feet.
Eric, he's now questioning his judgment. He says if he's Master of the Horse, does that mean he has to muck the stables? What did I get myself into?
You'll get somebody else to do that for you.
Yeah, we can always assign that responsibility to someone else. DGeek Art says, hello all. For anybody who might not be aware, that is Elizabeth, the graphic designer for Outlier Comics. So hello, Elizabeth. Good to see you here. Clean up, install 12. Let's see. Oh, Art wants the wrench for talented SOB. Let's see here. Let me go over to YouTube. Art T. Bear. You, sir, have been wrenched, and I bestow upon thee the title of talented SOB.
It makes him kind of like Lord without portfolio, doesn't it? I mean, he can like roam around doing his thing.
Yeah, he can look down his nose at people and proclaim to the unwashed masses his talents.
Yeah, I like that.
Stato says, yes, I am keeping these grounds. Also, Pete has been getting his pizza supplies from us, so I got to make sure the best is available. I knew we had the right man for the job, Russ. I knew it.
Yeah, always.
Pizza Medi is going to need the freshest herbs and vegetables for his pizzas, and Stato is making sure that he's got those. I love it. Okay, I think we're going to have to move on from the bestowing of wrenches and titles. So everybody, there was the link in the chat posted a few minutes ago. If you're interested in signing up to Black and White Volume 2.
I did. I suggest everybody does.
Excellent. Then you can sign up for free goodies and news for when the campaign will be going live. Let's see. Did Jose Garcia just show up? He did. Hello, Jose. Good morning to you, sir. Or afternoon, actually. It's probably lunchtime where you're at. So let's stop sharing that one. And let's see what else is going on in the wild world of indie comics. Share screen.
Even I don't know what's coming up. I don't know what's happening. No.
Now, this has caused a bit of a stir. And
oh dear.
I'm not going to get into the weeds on this one. I'm bringing it up for two reasons. One is that it's got what I think most would consider to be an unconventional art style. And there's been some discussions as to whether people like it or not. Personally, I do like it, but I understand completely if people say they don't. If this was 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have liked it. But because I've spent some years studying comic book art and different styles and techniques and whatnot, I can appreciate the technique behind the art style. But I still think this is more. This is probably considered more experimental than anything else. But what's your take on it, Russ?
What can I say? You got 30 more backers than me in a couple of days. What can I say about it?
Yeah, I think he started with a larger audience, in fairness to you. Yeah. But your point is well taken.
I mean, he got 300 backers. I mean, most people turning up to do a crowdfunder would go, "Well, 300 backers, yeah, I'll bite your arm off." Yeah, it's not. It doesn't appeal to me personally, but that's okay. I can appreciate that. You know, there are different styles of art, different styles of presentation. It's not up my street, so I'll be passing on this. As for I presume we want to talk about the other aspects of it. As again, we like you say, we don't want to get stuck in the weeds. He has his business to run. He does things the way he does them. It's up to him. But personally, I wouldn't I wouldn't be running multiples in the way that he is. But then I'm the artist, so you know, I'm kind of live and let live. If he can convince people to keep backing, then fine, yeah, okay. But it's not my cup of tea, so no.
Okay. Yeah. So the reason why I brought this up is because the other day, Michael Bancroft had sent out a tweet that was basically criticizing the timing of this release, considering that there are multiple unfulfilled campaigns, and that's the sum of it, really. I had sent out a tweet shortly after that where I said that with Outlier Comics, we will not run a second campaign until after the first is fulfilled.
I have to echo that as well. I personally would not do it either.
Yeah, and then I think I said that we would not run a third until the second is fulfilled, etc. So because I had spoke publicly about it, and there was a lot more discussion yesterday, I just figured since we're doing the show today, I might as well just not just putting it out there as a tweet, but my stance as the publisher of Outlier Comics is we will not run multiple campaigns open at the same time. Now, and that's how I see it going forward in the foreseeable future. Now, if we're, let's say 5 years down the road and conditions have changed and we've proven that we've got, a great track record and that we deliver and customers are happy and all that sort of thing. And because of an expanding business, we would have to run one while another one is still open. Like, let's say, we have a production schedule in the future, 5 years down the road, where we put out 6 books a year, right? And then there's just not enough time to run, let's say, a campaign for action figures in between campaigns without disrupting the publication schedule. Then that would be a situation where I would want to go to backers and say, hey, we want to do, you guys have said you want action figures. We'd love to run a campaign for action figures, but the only way we can do that without disrupting the publication schedule is if we run an action figure campaign while we're running one of the book campaigns. Are you guys okay with that? And if backers said, yeah, we love it, do it. Okay, then that's a situation where I can see it happening. But in the foreseeable future, what's that?
I'm with Jasper on this. What he's saying is that I think it all comes down to trust. Okay, so like you're saying, if your intent is not to do that, my intent is not to do that. If touchwood things become successful and some campaigns cross over, it doesn't matter as long as people are getting their books. As soon as you start getting into a situation where you've got multiple campaigns open and people aren't getting their books, that's when people are going to get upset. But if you're not a massive publishing company, then there's only a certain amount of books you should really be having open anyway, because you're going to stretch yourself there's the potential to stretch yourself too thin and then not get anything right. Yeah.
That's true. There are only so many hours in the day, and unless you have a staff where you can delegate tasks and responsibilities, then you can only, as one person, you can only get so much done.
I mean, I know I'm not gonna do even if I exceed what I got in the first book for Only Death. I know what I'm going to get personally is going to go down. I know this because I'm handing over more to the writer because I feel they deserve it, because they're helping me out, Rick.
Yeah.
But also because I'm going to have to pay people to do other parts of the job because I've benefited from the success of me getting out there and showing the book, getting it out there, doing it. So I'm working with you. I have other work coming as well. So I'm going to have to employ flatters, colorists, and letterers. I have no choice. So you do spread yourself to a certain degree, but you start putting out multiple books, managing multiple people, multiple teams, and it does come to a point where there may just be a little bit too much to spread yourself across. So you have to be careful.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely see how this one turns out. I know that on the last campaign, he was disappointed that it had only raised, and I use only in quotes because that's a relative term.
Yeah.
But his words, not mine. He seemed disappointed that there had only been 20,000 raised in, I think, the first 24 hours, something like that.
Oh dear, they're terrible. That sounds awful.
And he put out a video saying something to the effect of, what was it? That he thought that maybe crowdfunding was taking a dive, or maybe it was slowing down or dying out, or something like that, because there was such a drastic drop in the first day from that campaign compared to the one that had been before that. And I know there was a lot of us that disagreed with that.
Yeah, I mean that I didn't. That $4.99 is it $4.99?
$4.99. Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't speak to me personally. So maybe it didn't speak to a lot of people. I felt that was a bit experimental as well. I've got a lot of time for the artist on that. Narwhal. I've got a lot of time for him. He's a very, very creative person. But in the same way that this art here is very creative, I think it's got a lot of energy in it. It's got a lot to say, but it's not for me. It's not my thing. And so I think really, if you analyze the kind of material that he's put out, that was a very different book, and this is a very different book as well. So you can't necessarily expect people to jump on if they like one thing. If you've modeled yourself around bringing out, I don't know, stuff based around 90s comics, the way that it looked and felt, and you make a really a campaign that people enjoyed the book on and what have you, and then you bring out something else that's completely different, you can't necessarily expect it to do the same.
Yeah, I agree.
You got to treat each book individually as to the kind of content it is. You can't just think, oh, I've got an audience, so everybody's just going to turn up. No, that's not the way it works. People have still got to think, is this for me or not? I'm not just going to blindly buy any book. I regularly take a shifty through Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and if I find something I like, I buy it. If I don't like it, I'm not just going to buy it. It's important. It is important to a lot of people that they like and trust and feel a certain connection with the creators, and I think that's a great thing, and I'm very much behind that because I want to reach out to people myself. But there are just as many they're only interested in the book, and they turn up, they either like it or they don't, and they won't buy it because the creator. They'll just buy the book. So you have to take that into account when you're putting things out there. You can't just say, oh, this book didn't do as well as the previous book, so obviously crowdfunding isn't doing as well. I think the other thing is crowdfunding is a very the word, there's a clue in the word crowd.
Yes.
There's a lot of people out there doing it now, and I don't necessarily think it's a gold rush situation, although there are people that are grifting. There are definitely people out there that think, all right, everyone's doing it, I'm bound to make some money. And you see that in some pretty dire campaigns all over the place. But I do believe that there's a whole bunch of talent coming out of the woodwork that are saying, wow, I can actually do this. I can connect with people. I can make books and I can make it happen. And that's a really special, that's what's going on. That's why comics that's why they're changing. I think there's a working class almost uprising. It's like everybody can get there and make comics, but the market will decide, and it's not, it's a combination of, are you entertaining, are you approachable, do people like you? There's that end of it where the people, you know, are attracted by the creators, and then the content of the books themselves, are they worthwhile, are they good quality? But either way, the market will decide. And so you've got this opportunity with crowdfunding where people can make their own books without having to go through publishers. And you know, but there's been a lot of talk recently about the comic book business ending. It won't end. It's just changing. And there's a change in the balance between corporate comics and independent comics. I'm talking about truly independent comics, not Image. That's corporate comics.
Yeah.
So there's a change in the balance between the weight of the numbers and the quality of comics, and then also the fact that there's so much more ground. There's a groundswell of talent coming up and making great content, and some of it's experimental. So it's, you know, I applaud things like 4.99. I applaud that stuff. What we just saw, it's not my thing, okay, but like, get out there and make it, because it's going to be somebody's thing. So I think there's a massive change going on, and it's all for the good. It's another golden age of comics.
I agree.
There's a resurrection going on here. I really hope, actually, that the mainstream or the corporate comics get on board, that they see that there's this opportunity. Because, and obviously not in the indie market for them, but just an opportunity to just drive the medium forward, because we can all, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats. And if we can all be on board, that would be a great thing. But either way, being in the indie community, indie end of the industry, that's where all the excitement is at the moment. I think I'm very much focused on all ages stuff and kids and all ages. I think that's where the future lies as far as getting the next generation to come read comics. So I'm very much focused in that. So I think that there is an opportunity for corporate comics, whether you want to call them corporate or mainstream, to have a part in that, because they can get to that market, and that'll help everyone. It's like talking about crowdfunding versus direct market.
Right.
It's not an either or situation. You can have both. You can have all of this. Okay. But what we have got to get to is we've got to get to younger markets. But it really is, you know, just as a note, because we're talking about what's going on in the indie world at the moment, there's so much. I think there's so much creativity happening, and it's all down at the indie end.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments in the chat about people liking the variety of what's out there in the indie market. It's not just the same stuff over and over. And you know, Jose Garcia here has a very stylized look in Lumina Vox, and
that's
he's
gorgeous.
saying he appreciates new styles in indie comics. He loves stylized art. Matt Barr, who's drawing Rock and Roll Ninja for your boy Zach, he says, I'm down for stuff like 4.99. There's only so many 90s ripoffs and Image Golden Age ripoffs you can read.
Yep.
And there was another one.
That's why, I mean, that exact comment, there's only so many ripoffs you can read. There's a difference between inspired by and just copying because you think you might get a quick buck out of it, or because you can't come up with something yourself. There is a difference, and quality will show through. So, for instance, that book that we just looked at, the ninja thing, it's not my cup of tea. Okay, it maybe not a lot of people's cup of tea that agree with me, but if there's a groundswell of people going, "Oh wow, this is a fantastic book," then you're going to go check it out. No, whether it's not your I mean, I do buy the occasional manga book when I've been told that it's really, really good. It's not my thing, but sometimes things are recommended and you think, well, I'm just going to give it a go, you know? And so quality will always win out.
Jason Black says, not speaking for anyone else, he's seen so many campaigns and he's weary of lesser effort to properly market with each generation, which I take it means that back in 2018, when Jawbreakers Lost Souls launched and Cyberfrog Bloodhoney launched, there was, a supreme amount of effort going into the marketing of those projects. And then with each year, I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, but I'm guessing when you say with each generation, maybe you're referring to each year since 2018. And then he says, nobody is following the model, let alone improving upon it. I definitely respect the viewpoint. I agree that there are more than a few who are not following it, but I've also seen more than a few who are following it. I guess it really depends on each person's perspective in terms of, the projects that they're watching. There was Matt's earlier comment about Golden Age of Image. He's saying he's talking about the quote unquote Golden Age of Image.
Right.
So
okay. No.
I'm guessing that's early to mid 90s.
Yeah.
But
it is still the case. There's still there are still people that will copy something instead of be inspired by.
Sure.
And that comes out in the quality of the story, the book, the content, whatever.
Phil from Zaid Comics says, Joe, congrats on Black and White. Thank you, Phil. I appreciate it, sir. I was telling Russ earlier in the show that I'm having so much fun working with art. I'm not sure if it's allowed, but that's how much fun we're having. So there.
I've just been told I'm a weeb.
Oh, really?
I'm afraid. I don't know what a weeb is.
Weeb is short for weeaboo, which basically means a non-Japanese person who loves Japanese stuff. So because you buy the occasional manga,
right?
Jim has decided that you're.
I'm a weeb.
Congratulations!
Thank you. This.
Okay, Jason says you get it. Most campaigns today, quote, I did a live stream. Here's my IGG. Please retweet, unquote.
Yeah.
And then he asks, where's the innovation? Where's the audience building?
Yeah.
Russ and I both are in agreement with that. Is that it's critical to build an audience. It's critical to innovate. I assess what has come before, analyze it, try to figure out what worked well, what didn't, and then try to take that information and apply it to the future effort so that you can improve upon the results. And that's not just from a creator's perspective, that's from a backer's perspective. As somebody who's backed a truckload of campaigns myself, I want to see creators innovating, and I want to see them coming up with new and better ways to identify potential readers, find out what they want, give them what they want, and then reap the rewards from that.
I think patience is required as well. You can't just turn up. I rather than an audience number for me, I just feel I want to be available. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to be visible. So I'm here. I'm just. I did the work that I did it in the mainstream a couple of years back, and I was completely invisible, and that's fine. If all you're doing is working for other people, that's fine. I'm not here to be some kind of internet celebrity. I don't require fame. I'm not interested in that. But when you've got your own property, like Only Death Can Save Us, and you're asking people to believe in you and trust you, then you need to make yourself available. You need to make yourself obvious and transparent so that they can see what you're about.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to invest money in your book. They want to get that book back. We all know that, we treat everybody like customers, but at the end of the day, it's investment, and there's no guarantees. They don't get a receipt, and we've heard of nightmares where people don't get their money or their book. Now, obviously, that's not something I'm interested in at all. But in order to convince people, especially seeing as those kind of things have happened, you've got to be there. That people need to know that you're not just going to run off. People need to see you on a regular basis, being you, working, doing your thing. Okay, it's not just like I mean, I've mentioned it's like being on a 24/7 convention. It's better than that, because you have a direct connection. Although you don't see people in the room with you like you do at conventions, you do have a broader reach, a broader direct reach to people who come listen to you. I mean, I couldn't do my Monday night this week, but I'll be doing one next week. And the fact that people turn up and sit in the chat and talk to you while you're drawing. I mean, I know that some people actually are drawing their own stuff while I'm and people just, check streams and what have you. It means a huge amount. And connecting with people in that way, it's not just about audience numbers. It's just being visible and people knowing that you're not going to run off. You're here for the long term. This is what you do. And part of what you do is entertaining those people.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of entertaining people, this campaign that we see on the screen before us, Arc Athena, has got entertainment galore.
Look at
and all I can say is, as editor of Arc Athena, the pages of artwork combined with the story. I mean, if you like, let's see, how did I describe it to somebody? I said Arc Athena is like if you were to take the film Independence Day and mix it with the film Pacific Rim, with the giant mechs fighting the giant monsters, and then mix it with the X-Men. So Independence Day times Pacific Rim times the X-Men. That's Arc Athena, basically. And, people who back this book, I think it's going to blow their wig back when they get it and check it out. So I've got on the screen here Eric Canetti's website. He's got a mailing list on here. So if you sign up to the mailing list, you could win a copy of this 3D printed bust of one of the main characters, Devana. And he gave one away in June last month. He's giving another one away this month in July, and then another one in August. And so if you sign up, you'll get a newsletter that goes out. I believe it's once a month. But I can't guarantee that. But anyway, so if you want to, you can go here and just put your name and your email address in. Here's a little cropped image from what I believe is going to be one of the covers. But anyway, I mean, the line art is phenomenal. The color work is phenomenal. It's been a real pleasure to work with Eric on this project. And I'm happy to say that he basically locked me up long term, and I'll be working on all 5 of the books. So let me take a quick look at the chat. Yep. Lord Crackhead is on it. There's the mailing list if anybody wants to join. Thank you, sir. And there's also a link to Bristolian Dave's channel and the CG UK Bargain Bin. Talk about another group who's trying to provide entertaining content. Those guys are a crack up. I suggest that people check them out.
They make me laugh. Very, very British, very funny.
Yeah, very British. If you like British humor, CG UK and the CG UK Bargain Bin, they really crack me up. Lion Art, welcome to the show. Saying, could you talk more about the line art? Whoa, Michael Bancroft. Up at what, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., something like that? Welcome to the show. Nice to see you. Yeah, as far as the line art goes, I wish I had. You know what? Let me see if I can find some on the page, because I can't remember which pages Eric Canetti has shown publicly. So I don't want to show anything from my files that he wouldn't want shown. Let me check one other place on the site. Okay, so here's some. Yeah. So here's a post from April where we've got some pencil work here. He was doing some. He was basically testing out some ideas for covers. So here's one where you've got the team. This is there are two teams in the book. One is Arc Athena, one is Arc Poseidon, and Arc Athena is basically the front-facing or public-facing team that is put together, funded, and represented by the Arc conglomerate in a world where social media and celebrity status is worshipped. And so this is kind of like a celebrity superhero team. And then Arc Poseidon is the team that gets down into the sewers and does the dirty work when giant monsters are attacking the city. So as people read the book, they'll see that there's quite a difference between the two teams and what their purposes are and what they're capable of. And then down here, this is an upshot of the team. There's Divana, Heavy Gun, Havoc. There is Cyan, Flamingo, and Go-Go, Gossamer, and Killer Performance. And these are all like the social media darlings, basically. And then this was more the concept that Eric landed on for the main cover, if I remember correctly. We saw a bit of that colored work. So here's one of the team members, Killer Performance, and she has these runes on her arm that she uses to summon this cosmic being called the Galaxian. And so here are color notes that Eric has made when his colorist, Giuliano, turned in the work. This, I believe, was a first pass, and then Eric was just making notes for what he looked great as is, and then also wanting little notes of what should be changed. So the finished colors actually look a little bit different from this. This is a work in progress page.
Very nice.
Yeah, so if you like Eric Canetti's work, then I highly encourage you to sign up, because the book is something else, man. It's a lot of fun, a lot of action, a lot of adventure. Ja Rosa sounds like a more like an evolution of the Youngblood concept. I think that's a good comparison. Matthew Fowler, yeah, Youngblood, number one, two teams. Let's see. There was. I thought there was another comment or question about Arc Athena, but I'm not able to find it. Sorry about that. If I missed your question, please feel free to ask it again. But in the meantime, we're going to end the show on an art reveal for the Outliers. And so, for anybody who's not familiar, The Outliers is the superhero project that I'm publishing, and Russ Leach is our illustrator, Ink Spots is our color artist, and Eric Weathers is our letterer. And the way the book is structured is that there are 2 chapters in the main story, and then there will be an 8-page backup story, which tells the origin of the Saint, who's our flagship hero. And so the idea is that we produce the premium graphic novel, and after backers receive their books and a little bit of time has passed, then I want to publish single issue newsprint floppies of each of the chapters from the main story. So the way it's structured is each chapter is a 24-page standalone story that has plot elements and subplot elements that continue on into subsequent chapters. So when you get the book, you'll see that what happens in chapter 1 carries over directly into chapter 2. There's a 30-day gap of 30-day gap of in-world time between the events of the first chapter and the second chapter. So you get to see a progression of the team, the heroes, kind of their interpersonal dynamics. And so between each chapter, we'll see this little gap of time, and then we'll kind of pick back up 30 days after the previous one. So we've shown off a lot of art from chapter 1, and now we're about to show art from chapter 2. Chapter 1 is
just layouts.
Yeah. So chapter 1 is fully penciled and inked, and in chapter 2, we're in the layout stage. And I believe, Russ, you said that you've started on some penciled pages, which we're not showing today, but
no. What I've done is I've done all the thumbnails now.
That's what it was.
Yeah, and I'm up to I'm nearly halfway through these layouts, so they'll be finished next week, and I'll get on to the finished pencils. So I'll be starting inking sort of late July. So I'm a couple of weeks behind, unfortunately, but we've just had different bits and pieces happen that have just put us behind a little bit. But it's all built in. It's all good. So the overall project schedule is still on track. It's still fine.
We've just had little bits and pieces that we had laid out, and we've moved things around a little bit. But
in fact, the only thing that's been put back is my book.
The one after Outliers.
The one I was going to start 1st of September, but that campaign is probably going to be 1st of October now. But that's fine because it's all good. I'm absolutely loving it. Really, really good. And the story's great fun.
There's a question from Jaro. Are the floppies going to be published through Alterna by any chance? Stay tuned.
That's up to Pete.
that's all I'm going to say at this point is stay tuned. So the layouts are going really well. The way that
the next page. Sorry, did you want the next page?
No, let me just talk to this one just a bit, and then we can go to the next one.
Sure.
So, for people who have kind of been following along with our art reveals, and they've seen that chapter 1, our team gets introduced. They have their first mission. Things go a bit sideways, and then they're able to achieve their objective, although in a bit of an unconventional way. And we have not shown the pages where that unconventional way is depicted, because that's a spoiler. We're saving that for a later date. But the main thing is that their adventure, gets resolved. But then at the end, there's a bit of a teaser, if you will, a little bit of a reveal that one of the characters is not all that they're cracked up to be, let's say. Now, in chapter 2, a month has passed in the universe, and the team has been training at their home base. And the book opens where they're working out in their private gym, and they're talking a little bit about what had happened in the previous chapter, and then they're also talking about some stuff that has happened in the 30-day interval of time between the two chapters. So, Russ, you can go ahead and move to the next one.
Oh, yeah.
And here we've got Mini Mart is messing around with High T's hat, which is a big no-no for High T. He doesn't let anyone touch his hat. And so here, Mini Mart's messing around with it. And then High T, who had been working out, he was bulked up in his massive form. And he's shrinking down to his normal size because in his massive form, that hat would not fit on his head. So he's shrinking down. Mini Mart's running away. And then Mini Mart puts on his hat. I'm sorry, High T puts on his hat. And then he realized that there's something that's wrong. And on another day, maybe we'll reveal what that is. So that's how so the book is opening on some of the interactions between the team, but fairly quickly something big happens at the base. And when you see the last page of chapter 1, that's a teaser for what's happening in chapter 2.
Yeah.
So let's just say that there are some unwelcome visitors that come knocking on the door at the home base, and then the outliers have to deal with that.
Yeah. The what's fun about this is the pacing. Yeah. So it was all out in the first half of the book, so the first 24 pages, and then it again gets all out again at the end. But in between, we get this sort of downtime, which is not people sitting around drinking lattes. There's actual impact to the story. There's impact to the characters, and at the same time, it's entertaining. So it's really good. It's got a real nice pace to it.
Jim Cox says, "Does his hat uses an egg basket?" And I said, "Yeah, you're close. It's not quite an egg basket, but it's just as unpleasant. I'll put it that way." And Jaro says, "I like how High T has a proper dad bod in his base form. Very relatable." And that is one of the things that I wanted to make sure we communicate with all of our characters, is that they are relatable in some way. They all have their own distinct personalities, their own distinct look, but if we do our job correctly, Russ and I and Ink Spots and Eric Weathers, when you get the book and you read the stories, hopefully it won't take long for you to start relating to these characters and start picking out who's your favorite, or maybe a couple favorites. And we're hoping that you guys really enjoy the stories, enjoy reading them as much as we're having fun making them.
I'm getting excited to actually have the book. I know that sounds a little bit premature, but it's just the idea of making content, making those books, and having them in your hands.
Yeah,
it's just. I mean, I'm so keen for Only Death Can Save Us 2, and I all I'm doing is thumbnails and that, and I'm kind of like I can taste it with outliers because of how far through we are.
Yeah,
it's so much. It's so satisfying, so much fun. I'm truly blessed to be able to sit here and do this stuff. Very, very, very fortunate.
Well, I feel the same way. I mean, it's an absolute pleasure to work with you. I love the story. I'm really looking forward to people being able to read it and let us know what they think. And I just hope that people enjoyed as much as we do. So I think that's it for our show, Russ.
We've had a good chat.
Yeah, really enjoyed the conversation, guys. Thank you so much, everyone in the chat who contributed, and those who are catching this on the replay. We really appreciate you watching the show as well. Thank you to all of our moderators for dropping links, and everybody. I really am grateful that you guys keep showing up each week. Russ and I know that without you guys, this isn't a show. It's just a couple of guys having a conversation. So thank you so much for your time. And I hope that everybody goes out and